Facilitating Group Discussions, Part 2, Paraphrasing and/or Explaining.
Hi there everyone, I'm Michelle.
And I'm Tanya. Welcome back to our EMITA series, where we help you turn classroom silence into spark-filled conversations.
This video dives into paraphrasing and explaining.
Have you ever had students looking at you with wide eyes after a professor gives instructions? Or when a group discussion starts and you realize no one actually knows what's going on?
Yep, we've seen it happen many times. That's why explaining clearly and paraphrasing effectively are essential in EMI classes.
Before we get started, you need to know that your job as a TA is not to reteach the lecture or to translate the professor's English into Chinese. One of your main jobs is to take the professor's academic lecture and turn it into practical language that students can easily use and understand.
To help you paraphrase effectively, we'll look at practical sentence starters, go over real examples, try some role-playing, and also discuss how to guide students when things get conceptually tricky.
Let's start with why paraphrasing matters.
Imagine this. Students have just been given a group task. The professor said, now, in your groups, analyze the socio-cultural implications of multilingual policies in post-colonial contexts. And all the students go, huh?
This is not because they weren't listening. It's because they're overwhelmed. Maybe they're mentally translating. Maybe they completely misunderstand the professor.
As a TA, you can help the groups that look stuck. Your clarification can be broken down into two core parts.
The first part is paraphrasing, which means you are saying something again using simpler or clearer words. And the second part is explaining, when you provide a bit of extra context, structure, or an example to make something more understandable.
Paraphrasing means you're restating what the professor said in easier to understand words. It's like rewrapping the same present with a more inviting ribbon. Then,
your explanation further clarifies and expands on the professor's original prompt.
Let's look at some basic sentence structures for when students are confused or unsure.
Here are some easy and effective phrases to get you started when students seem confused about what the teacher just said and need to clarify things quickly. I think what the teacher meant was...
In other words, it's like this.
Let me say that in a simpler way.
What you need to do is just...
Think of it like this.
So basically, your task is to...
You're being asked to talk about...
This just means you need to focus on...
The professor wants you to figure out.
Those intros are nice and simple.
If you're not sure how to simplify, then try giving a real-world example by saying, for example, if we're talking about climate change, you might start by thinking about extreme weather in your hometown.
Like when you... and then you relate to daily life.
It's kind of like when you open too many apps and your phone freezes.
Let's say we're talking about public transportation. How do different policies affect that?
Ah, I see the analogies. Analogies make abstract ideas feel real, and they can help turn the lights on in a student's brain. So don't be afraid to use them. And bonus points if they're funny or relatable.
Now for some relatable advanced sentence structures for higher level.
Now let's help these students dig a little deeper. Here are some more nuanced phrases you could use. To put it another way, the teacher is asking you to...
This concept is similar to what we talked about earlier when...
The key idea here is that...
You might remember this from our last discussion about...
One way to approach this is to think about...
This might sound complicated, but it's really just...
It helps to compare this to how we use in daily life.
What the teacher is highlighting here is more about the why than the what.
These help students make lateral connections. It's not about dumbing things down, it's more about smartening the delivery. Special scenario.
So what should we do when students ask questions like, so what are we supposed to do again?
When this happens, use the 3-step rescue plan. First, restate the objective by saying,
the goal is to.
Then, break down the necessary steps. You can say,
first, you need to, then you blah blah.
Next, clarify the outcome of the task by saying,
at the end, you should have blah blah blah.
In this scenario, you are like a GPS recalculating the route. You are calm, clear, and give students confidence to start.
On to role-playing practice. Alright, let's bring everything to life, shall we? Here are the instructions from the professor. Get into groups of 4, discuss how AI has been implemented into the collegiate curriculum, and dive into what it means for the learning outcomes and critical development for undergraduates.
And the students look confused after receiving those instructions. One student even asks you, the TA, so we talk about how AI is good for students?
Now, dear TAs, what can you do?
Paraphrase and explain.
Yes, you can say, good question. The teacher wants you to discuss the pros and cons of AI in education. So basically think about both the benefits and the challenges.
Nice.
Now, in this scenario, some of the students have stopped talking before the discussion time was over.
In this case, you could provide more questions that relate to the prompt to further encourage discussion by saying, how does AI affect student critical thinking when writing essays? Can you think of any personal examples?
In this case, you are indirectly explaining the prompt again by encouraging students to think about a specific scenario.
Exactly. You are helping students move from definition to application.
Now let's move to our next topic, bridging concept gaps. Sometimes students struggle with instructions not because of linguistic issues, but because of how complex and abstract the idea is. That's when you can guide their thinking process.
You could try the following strategies to guide students. Let's break this down into smaller parts.
Imagine this situation instead.
Think of this as a process. First this happens, then that.
A good way to approach this is to ask, what problem is this solving?
Try thinking about how this would work in real life.
These strategies help students from, I don't get it, to, oh, that makes so much more sense now.
And for deeper collaboration, you can try encouraging peer explanation. Other than paraphrasing and explaining, another powerful move that you can pull is encouraging students to explain the concept to each other. You don't have to carry the whole load. You could try saying, can anyone explain that in their own words?
Would someone like to summarize what the teacher just said?
Try explaining that to your group mates as if they missed class.
Can you say that in a simpler way?
How would you explain that to a high school student?
Would anyone like to paraphrase that for the group? When students rephrase for each other, they're building their understanding together. This is a great collaborative approach.
I agree. Now, what have you experienced? TA reflection.
Let's pause and reflect for a moment. Think back to a time you were confused in class. What helped you understand better?
Was it a second explanation, a visual metaphor, a good analogy, or even that patient classmate who whispered what the teacher really meant?
Now ask yourself this question. How can you be that person for your students?
Your small clarification, even if it's only a sentence, can create that big aha moment.
On to our summary table. All right, let's bring it all together in a quick summary table.
This is a pocket guide for when you need to paraphrase or explain something clearly and supportively.
Each situation calls for a slightly different tone and structure. Take a screenshot for convenient use later.
And remember, guys, it's not about memorizing them word for word. It's more about getting used to the rhythm of paraphrasing with clarity and care.
Just like adjusting your tone when helping a friend through a tough topic, your phrasing as a TA should meet students where they are.
Okay, let's finish with our recap and takeaways.
Today, we covered how to paraphrase and explain with clarity without oversimplifying.
We showed you how to use examples, analogies, and peer explanations to encourage students and boost their understanding. Remember, guys, your goal isn't to reteach the lesson or translate word for word. Your role is to make the lesson more digestible and to facilitate understanding.
In our next video, we'll look at how to help when groups go off topic or get stuck and how to bring them back.
Until then, keep listening, keep paraphrasing, and keep encouraging.
See you in the next video.